What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Permission to Shine, your podcast dedicated to highlighting the most humble, inspiring stories that I know you will love. Let's get to it. Today's guest, Dr. Sanjiv Chopra. Yes, the younger brother to famous Deepak. This is one of the most fascinating, enlightening conversations that I've had the opportunity to be a part of, and I feel so honored to bring this to you guys today. Dr. Chopra has served as faculty at Harvard. He has been the Dean of Continuing Medical Education for 12 years. 12 is a special number because he's also authored 12 books, his most recent being The 2 Most Important Days, How to Find Your Purpose. And he is certainly most qualified to help us in that path to finding our purpose. You're going to hear about him growing up in India with his brother Deepak, what coming to America has looked like, and talking about, presenting at the biggest stage, right? Presenting in front of thousands of people. He's lived an extraordinary life, and I could not be more excited for you guys to hear this conversation. As always, let me know what you think. I love that you're a part of this journey. Thank you for being here. Let's get to this conversation. Dr. Sanjiv Chopra, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Andrew. Delighted to be on the show.
What do you remember about the day you decided to become a physician?
It's really a remarkable story. I was 12 years of age, studying in St. Columba's High School, New Delhi, arguably the number one all-boys school in India. Irish Christian brothers, very strict but amazing teaching. And my brother's also studying in the same school. He's 3 years older, Deepak. And we're staying in Delhi with my uncle and aunt because our parents, my father, a brilliant cardiologist in the Army Medical Corps, was posted 200 miles away. And they wanted us to finish our schooling at this preeminent school. So on a very warm, sultry weekend, I play a cricket match. And Sunday evening around 6 o'clock, I'm not feeling that great. I'm reading a book. I put it down. I take a 30-minute nap, 30, 40 minutes. I wake up. And I'm terrified. I can't see. I'm blind. I blink my eyes. I open them again. I can't see. I nudge my brother. Said, Deepak, I can't see. And he must have done visual threat and figured that I wasn't faking it. And he started to cry. I have one brother. He's turned blind. And my uncle takes me to the military hospital in Delhi, where the doctors examine me, I believe including maybe an ophthalmologist. And they don't have the foggiest idea as to what's going on. I can hear them talking, and they're saying, oh, maybe it's hysterical. We don't see anything wrong. I'm this happy 12-year-old kid. I'm a very good athlete, a good student. And if you're faking it, you come from the side with a sharp pencil or something, and you'll see it, and you'll blink. It's so easy to discriminate between faking and real blindness. Finally, they get a hold of my father. He's in an army jeep 200 miles away, and very calmly he says, tell me everything that's happened to Sanjiv in the last 2 months. They said, he's been fine. No. Any injuries, any accidents, any new medicines? Oh, yes. 6 days ago, he had a laceration to his right leg with a sharp object, taken to the casualty ward, which is the equivalent of emergency room, and he got stitches. Did he get an antibiotic? So they looked and mentioned the antibiotic. He asked another question, did he get a tetanus shot? And very proudly they said, yes, he was given a tetanus shot. And my father asked one more question. What kind? Anti-tetanus serum, ATS, or anti-tetanus toxoid, ATT? So they looked and they said, anti-tetanus serum. And I have no idea how my father divined it, but he said, Sanjiv is having a rare idiosyncratic reaction to the anti-tetanus serum. It occurs maybe 1 in 250,000 to 500,000 people. He has a localized form of serum sickness only affecting his 2 optic nerves. They're ready to burst, start an intravenous, and give him massive doses of corticosteroids. And that was done, and 12 hours later, my vision returned. I've told this story to professors of ophthalmology at Harvard, Stanford, Duke, UCLA, Hopkins. I said, what? Your father saved your sight. You could have been blind for the rest of your life. He had intuition and he knew more about medicine than any single person I've ever known. So the next day I when I woke up, I said, you know what? I want to be a healer. I want to be a doctor like my father.
Uh-huh. At 12 years old.
12 years.
And you went on to become a practicing physician.
Right. Yeah.
In addition to so many other things.
Yeah.
And out of all of those things, what are you most proud of?
I think I'm most proud of the fact that I have written a bunch of books.
10, right?
Yeah, actually 12 now. But
wow.
Written a bunch of books that some 20 plus years ago, a dear friend of mine, Adrian Wilkins, very spiritual, we're sitting on the deck having coffee, and he said, Sanjiv, you won this award, you did this, you got promoted, you got that. I said, Adrian, where's this conversation going? You know that. Why are you bringing it up? He said, what's your purpose in life? And I'd always thought about success and working very hard and getting promoted at Harvard Medical School to a full professor, becoming one of the deans. And that was sort of my goals in life. But what's my purpose in life? So he left. My wife was in New York with the kids and grandkids. So I sat on the deck and I wrote my purpose in life. And now everything I do has to be aligned to my purpose.
What is it?
And if it's not, it's a distraction or a detour. So my purpose in life is to fulfill my dharma. Dharma is a Sanskrit word that incorporates vocation, authenticity, moral compass, truth. To fulfill my dharma, to teach medicine, to teach about leadership, to teach about happiness, to teach about living with purpose, to do it grounded in humility, with an ardent desire to learn every single day, to celebrate with gratitude my family, my friends, my colleagues, my students, and my patients who inspire me in countless ways, and in some small measure, inspire everyone I meet on this amazing life journey. So it's a little long, but I wanted to have all those 4 elements. And then, as you know, I wrote a book about this with a colleague and friend, Gina Wild. She was the Associate Dean of External Communications at Harvard Med School, great family friend. And we called it The 2 Most Important Days, How to Find Your Purpose and Live a Happy and Healthier Life. And when you open the book, there's the famous quote by Mark Twain, who said, the 2 most important days in your life are the day you're born and the day you find out why. Mm-hmm. So each one of us has a singular purpose in life. And if we're lucky to find it, then we're amongst the happiest people on this planet. Mm-hmm. And we tell a lot of stories. There's an amazing individual I met some 15 years ago at a leadership course at Kellogg. His name is Jaime Aramillo. He's from the country Colombia. At age 18, he's standing at a street corner in Bogota, and across the street, there's a sewer. And these orphans live in the sewer with human excrement and terrible stuff. 7-year-old beautiful girl emerges, smiling at him. And he's saying to himself, I got to help these kids. As they're having this interchange, a car comes around the corner, stops in the middle of the street, a window rolls down, somebody tosses a toy, yellow school bus, Fisher-Price toy. The car recedes. This girl has never possessed a toy. She comes running up to the middle of the street, picks up the toy. She's beaming with joy, looking at Jaime Aramillo. And tragically, as they're having this interchange, speeding truck comes around the corner, smashes her into oblivion. And he says to himself, this is it. This is my calling in life. I'm going to help these kids. He's been at it for 50 years. He's adopted, house-schooled, and fed 100,000 orphans. So he's a national hero, hence the name Papa Jaime. He got nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize together with Mother Teresa. He's been to the leper colonies in Calcutta. He's an amazing saint. He showed me the photograph of a young girl with 3rd-degree burns on the entire left side of her body. I said, what happened? He said, all the orphans, all the newcomers to the orphanage are told, don't leave the orphanage. You don't have to go beg anymore. She left, was begging outside a fancy restaurant. The restaurant owner called the police. It was not the police, but a death squad that showed up, put her in the gutter and torched her. He rescued her. 3rd-degree burns, entire left side. 17 reconstructive surgeries. Educated, comes to our country on a scholarship, computer sciences, is back home. And he says, let me show you. She's married. This is her 3-year-old daughter. She's my grandchild. Plays with my biological grandchildren. Next moment, he shows me the photograph of a young man dressed in impeccable white with a tennis racket, flanked by Pete Sampras and Agassi, junior national champion of Colombia, tennis, one of his orphans. Grew up to become teachers, lawyers, physicians, surgeons, and many of them are giving back to the foundation. But he found his purpose in life 50 years ago, witnessing the tragic death of that 7-year-old beautiful girl.
Wow. That's
But you have to have the compassion, the fortitude, the grit, the love to say, this is unacceptable. I'm going to make a difference. And then before you know it, becomes your life purpose.
Yeah.
I don't think he thought he'd take care of 100,000 orphans, but he's done it.
Yep. So for people, the book is called The 2 Most Important Days, right? Which just hits home in so many ways, right? And we've all been granted our first day.
Yeah.
And for those who feel like they haven't gotten to that second important day in their life, what advice do you have for them to get there?
I think if they read the book, they'll come across some amazing stories. And, our purpose in life doesn't have to be very grandiose. It doesn't have to be, I'm going to change the world. I'm going to be a Papa Jaime. I have a friend, Susie Klein, and I asked her, Susie, what's your purpose in life? She said, my purpose in life is to be the best wife, mother, grandmother for my family, to be a loyal and trusted friend, and to tend my garden. She's got a beautiful garden. That's a very simple purpose. I have another friend, 6 months into our friendship, because I would talk about it. She's the lady who, together with her husband and Mark Anthony, has opened now 22 orphanages in 10 years. 6 months into our friendship, she said, Sanjiv, can you help me define my purpose? I said, no, you have to do it. Send me something, I'll reflect on it, and then I'll send it back to you. And if you like it, keep it. If not, toss it. So she sends me a page full, and I got it right away. I said, this is how I see your purpose. I, Elena Sotomayor, having supreme compassion and love, not only for my family and friends, but also those less fortunate and in dire need. He said, oh my God, you hit it on the nail. I was crying, my mother was crying. Now, one way we can find our purpose is, you witness something horrific and you say, I'm going to do something. Compassion is a verb. In the Talmud, it says compassion is the highest form of wisdom. The other way, which my friend Adrian Wilkins and I teach in a workshop called Invitation to Happiness, we gave everyone 33 by 5 cards and said for the next 30 days, at the end of the day, reflect and write down 3 or 4 things you did. And then next to it, give it a grade. 1, you were miserable. 10, if you're lucky, you were in bliss. There'll be lots of 3, 4s, 5, 6, 7, occasional 8, 9. At the end of a month, line up those 30 cards. Strike off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Look at 6, 7, 8, 9.
Oh.
You were happy. You felt joy. You know what? Your purpose is lurking in there. Simple, low tech, 30 days.
That's a great exercise. I love that.
Yeah.
In our call, when we first got connected, you talked a lot about happiness, right? And kind of the keys to success to achieving that word. I'm curious how you define happiness and more so how you reverse engineer your pathway to it.
Yeah. So, Albert Schweitzer, Nobel laureate, he once said, success is not the key to happiness. Happiness is the key to success. Thich Nhat Hanh, Vietnamese monk, he said, there is no way to happiness. Happiness is the way. So I've come to the conclusion, and when I speak about it and write about it, I say the happiest people on this planet have 4 things in common. First one is they have a cadre of good friends. Your friends are your chosen family. Robert Louis Stevenson said, a friend is a gift you give to yourself. Khalil Gibran said, friendship is a sweet responsibility, never an opportunity. Now, the most amazing study about this is still ongoing. It started about 80 years ago. Hitler had sent his troops to Austria, and a year after that, this study started in Boston. It's called the Harvard Grant Study. They recruited 750 21-year-olds. 250 went to Harvard. The other 500 were from the poorest, most dysfunctional families in Dorchester, Roxbury. Detailed questionnaires. Off they go to the war, come back, re-enter the study. Detailed questionnaires, physical examination, blood tests, EKG, functional MRI, home visits. A cohort of their children, 2,000, are now being followed in a similar study. What study goes on for 80 years? Funding disappears, principal investigators pass away. This is still ongoing. And what happened to that group? 4 ran for the US Senate. Some became doctors, lawyers, CEOs, businessmen, teachers. Some became Skid Row alcoholic derelicts. Some died of suicide. One became our president. John F. Kennedy was in that study. And the major conclusion of the study is that loneliness is toxic. And that your satisfaction with relationships with friends at age 50 is a better predictor of health, happiness, and longevity at age 80. Better than what? Your EKG, your blood pressure, your cholesterol. So I teach the medical students, interns, residents. I said, you may have 15 minutes for an outpatient follow-up visit. Last 10 seconds, talk to them about how they nurture their friendships and point them to this study. They don't even have to read the book about it. A brilliant TED Talk by Robert Waldinger. What makes a good adult life? The longest standing study on happiness. Watch it on TED Talk.
What's it called?
TED Talk by Robert Waldinger.
Waldinger.
What makes a happy life? The longest standing study on adult happiness. Still ongoing. A few years ago, 19 were alive, aged 91 years of age.
Wow.
So that's number one, friends. The second is the ability to forgive. If we hold bitterness or rancor in our heart, you can never be happy. Anyone listening to this podcast, if you're holding a grudge, my plea, get rid of it. An ex, a sibling, a teacher, a neighbor, parent, doesn't matter who, friend. And the moment you make the decision to forgive that person, you'll feel this enormous weight come off your shoulder. There's a wonderful quote by a German theologian, philosopher, scholar, Louis Desmedis. He said, to forgive is to set a prisoner free and discover the prisoner was you. How good is that? You're only holding yourself. To me, the greatest example of forgiveness perhaps is that of Nelson Mandela. 27 years in prison. When he's released, Mr. Mandela, do you have a resentment against your white captors? He said, no, I have no bitterness. I have no resentment. Resentment is like drinking poison and then hoping it'll kill your enemies. How beautiful is that?
How do you even get to a mental state of that nature?
It needs a lot of strength. Gandhi said, the weak can never forgive. Forgiveness is the attribute of the strong. You have to be very strong. Inner strength. So friends, forgiveness. The third one is a quote by Albert Schweitzer, who once said, I don't know what your destiny will be, but one thing I'm certain of, the ones amongst you who will be truly happy are those who have sought and found how to serve. Right? There's this whole now concept about servant leadership. Leaders are there to serve. So one of the best ways for us to be happy is to make others happy. So I've distilled it into 3 F's: friends, forgiveness, for others. But the fourth one is gratitude. And very simple thing. At the end of the week on a Sunday, as you're reflecting on what's in store for you next week, look back at the last 7 days. So many good things have happened to us. Takes 3 minutes. Write down in your gratitude journal. There's research to back this. Robert Emmons, considered one of the fathers of modern positive psychology, has written a book about this. It's called Thanks. Paperback, Thanks. How the New Science of Gratitude Can Make You Happier.
Mm-hmm.
And you do that, your happiness quotient goes through the roof.
Mm-hmm.
So friends, forgiveness for others, and gratitude. But happiness is more than the sum total of happy moments. And in order for us to have enduring happiness, be happy most of the time, we have to find our purpose and live it.
Mm-hmm. That's beautifully said. And I love that it's like a mental model, right? You can take that and apply it to your own life. And that looks like breaking down each day, right? And just having those 4 pillars front and center.
Yeah, I think Gandhi was an amazing individual. He inspired Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King Jr., the young people of the Arab Spring in Tunisia and Egypt, Aung San Suu Kyi in Burma, who got the Nobel Prize. And he led by example. And he once said, the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. And he led by example. There's a story of this mother who walks 10 miles in the dust and heat with a 12-year-old son to meet Gandhi. She says, Gandhiji, look at my son. He's gained a lot of weight. He eats a lot of sugar. Would you please tell him not to eat sugar? He adores you. He worships you. He'll do anything for you. Gandhi looks up and he says, come back in a week. So they go away. A week later, they trudge 8-10 miles in the dust and heat. Gandhi looks at the boy, says, son, don't eat sugar. It's not good for your health. And the boy says, Gandhiji, from this moment onwards, I've given up sugar. And he leaves the room. The mother stays behind. She says, Gandhiji, thank you for saying that to my son. But can I ask you a question? He says, sure. We were here a week ago. You could have said the same thing to my son then. And Gandhi whispers into her ear, at that time, I had not given up sugar. Right? Lead by example. He also said once, he said, live as if you're going to die tomorrow. Learn as if you're going to live forever. Mm-hmm. So we have to live every day to the fullest. Mm-hmm. Be cognizant of the present moment. Like right now. It's the only moment we have. Right? Live each day to the fullest with your core values, celebrate with your friends, your family, nurture good deeds.
Yeah.
And then learn. I'm going to learn Spanish. Let it take 3 years, 5 years. Mm-hmm. Learn as if you're going to live forever.
Yeah. The present moment. I'm so thankful for this moment.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Thank you.
I'm really curious what you and your brother Deepak's relationship was growing up. I mean, you guys are 3 years apart. I know how my brother and I were. We fought all the time. So were you guys kind of butting heads, or were you guys loving on each other? And
we had a combination of both.
As you should.
Yeah. You know, he's very smart. He was 3 years older. In medical school, he started to broadcast the news on All India Radio in English. He was the national debating champion. So he did a lot of amazing things. I was much better in sports. I was a good student, but much better in sports. So one time, I'm 8 years of age, and for my birthday, I get a BB gun. And I go to the front of our home, huge home, palatial gardens in Jabalpur, central India, dad in the army. And on a pole, I put a shoe polished tin, cherry blossom, and I'm taking my BB gun and knocking it off. And my brother comes and he stands behind it. I said, Deepak, what are you doing? He says, go ahead, shoot. You never miss. I said, no, I'm not. He said, I'm your older brother. Listen to me. William Tell, Apple. So I shoot, I miss. It hits him in the chin and he's bleeding. He says, now we're going to go home and tell mom and grandma, our grandmother was staying with us, that I tripped and a piece of barbed wire nicked my chin. I said, Deepak, that's a lie. He said, I am Ram, one of the Hindu gods, and you're my younger brother, Lakshman. You better obey me. So we go home. My mother says, what happened? I said, hey, he tripped, barbed wire nicked him. So she washes it, puts Dettol, puts a Band-Aid. My father comes back from hospital, 8:30, we're having dinner. What happened? Oh, he tripped, barbed wire. Next day, it's swollen. And my grandmother says to my father, you're supposed to be this most brilliant physician in India. You have missed the diagnosis in your own son. There's a foreign body lodged in there. Take him to the hospital and get an X-ray. So off they go. And I'm pacing the veranda, and every few minutes I come, Mom, did they call? Did they call? She said, you're very worried about your brother. And the phone rings. The X-ray showed the pellet still lodged in there.
No.
So they incised it. He has a little dimple in his chin, like Kirk Douglas. I'm responsible for it. So we had a wonderful childhood. Every 3 years, my dad got posted to a different city. We'd pack up and leave and join another Irish Christian Brothers school, St. Aloysius, St. Edmunds, St. Columbus. And then we went to the same medical school. He was 2 years senior. Then he came to America.
Was that in India?
In India. And he came to America in 1970, and my wife and I came in 72. And we're very close. And luckily our kids and our grandkids are very close.
Where does he live?
You know, usually I answer that by saying he lives at 35,000 feet because he's always flying somewhere. And but he has a home in New York.
Okay, so you're not too far. You're in Boston.
Yeah.
So
and we meet. And he used to have a home in San Diego, but since he travels a lot to Europe, it's easier to have his base in New York.
Mm-hmm. What did your parents feed you? What is it? I'm trying to figure this out.
I think
You're so enlightened.
My mother, my dad was absolutely brilliant, intellect. He was the physician to the President of India, but he took care of the President of India with the same level of dignity as his poorest patients who couldn't afford a cent. My mother would actually watch them in the clinic and say to the secretary, don't charge that couple. Ask them where they came from. How did they come? Bus, train. Okay, give them the train fare. Tell the cook, make sandwiches for them. So she was full of heart. And he was absolutely amazing. We got very, very lucky.
Mm-hmm. I feel like through getting to know you, that meditation seems to be a really common theme. You started by talking about how you and Bill George, the former CEO of Medtronic, have really bonded over meditation.
Yeah, true.
I've caught, there's something special with that. What role has meditation played in your life?
It's Andrew, it's the single most powerful thing I have done in my life. And I was the holdout. My brother and his wife learned, and they came to our home. He lived in Boston that time. And he said, Amita, Sanjiv, we've been meditating for 2 weeks. It's the most powerful thing I've done. You guys should look into it. And my wife, who's very spiritual, she went the next day and learned. I said, good for the three of you. I don't need it. So after you learn transcendental meditation, they encourage you to come back a month later for what's called checking, to make sure you're doing it properly. You're not manipulating the mantra or whatever. So I said, I'll take you, but I'm not going into the center. I'm not even parking in their parking lot. I'm parking on the street. So I park on the street. I'm reading a book. It's a Saturday morning. And suddenly there's a knock on the window. Hello, I'm Ted Weissman. I said, Ted, oh, you taught my brother. He said, yeah. I didn't know what to say. So I said, tell me about TM. So he sat in the car and he gave me the introductory lecture. Then he says, any questions? I said, yeah, I'm very concerned about a few things. Number one, I'm the Associate Chief of Medicine at the West Roxbury Veterans Administration Hospital. And I have to discipline interns and residents from Harvard Medical School. Some of them think they are God's gift to mankind. I don't want to learn meditation and become mellow. He says, Sanjiv, you'll be more assertive from a silent level. Oh, that sounds good. I said, number 2, I smoke a pipe and I don't want to give it up. He said, everything that happens after meditation, it's from inside. You may give it up, you may not. Most people who learn decrease the amount of alcohol and tobacco consumption. Some give it up.
What do you mean by everything's inside?
It comes from within you. Nobody else is telling you to, hey, don't drink alcohol. You just don't feel like. And you value your meditation so much. And I said, number 3, I'm in a tennis finals tournament. And if I learn meditation, that's 7 days from now, will I win? He says, I'll be back. So he runs into the TM center. He comes back with a pamphlet that says the TM program in athletics, excellence in action. And there are testimonials by Joe Namath and Willie Stargell, baseball, Olympic diving champion, how TM made them focus and achieve success in their particular sports. So I said, this is great, but will I win? Same question. He said, I don't know if you'll win, but if you lose, you won't feel that bad. So I said, okay, teach me. And that was 40 years ago.
Wow. What is it about the meditation what effect most commonly shows up?
I think the most strongest effect is you feel grounded, you feel anchored, you feel so much more at peace. Stress is defined as the internalized physiological response. You know the story. A school bus crashes and 2 mothers arrive on the scene and one faints and the other one takes charge, calls 911. Same event, right? There are 2 kids in that school bus crash. Totally different physiological response. So what happens with meditation is we can't get rid of the stress. These events will occur in our life, whether it's an accident on the road or whether it's a cousin passing away, but it'll make you stronger in how to handle it. So you feel more grounded, you feel more peaceful, the blood pressure goes down, breathing rate goes down, you see EEG coherence on electroencephalograms, and also, amazingly, longer telomeres. So telomeres are caps at the end of our chromosomes, and they prevent the chromosomes from sticking and fraying. Who has shortened telomeres? And by inference, that means accelerated aging. Mothers of chronically severely disabled children. Stress of taking care of your loved one day in, day out. Caregivers of people with Alzheimer's. Not the person with Alzheimer's. He or she is clueless. Who has longer telomeres? People on the Mediterranean diet, people who exercise, people who drink coffee, and people who meditate. The big story. Elizabeth Blackburn, Australian scientist, 2009, she got the Nobel Prize, Physiology or Medicine, for her work on telomeres and telomerase. You can take a sample of blood and measure the enzyme telomerase in the white cells. So it's very much available. Meditation, longer telomeres. You live long. Very powerful.
So for somebody who's currently not meditating, what's the best way to start?
I think many different kinds of meditation, they all work. I think transcendental meditation, which means transcend, go beyond, taught by a teacher, not by an app, not by a book. You can read about it. Rob Roth heads the David Lynch Foundation. He's based here in New York. He's been teaching meditation for 45 years. He's taught the likes of Katy Perry and Oprah Winfrey. But what he's most proud of, I met him recently, he's taught veterans with PTSD. He's taught prisoners. Changes their life.
Wow.
Prisoners have a low rate of recidivism coming back to prison after they learn meditation.
Mm-hmm.
People in hospice, people with PTSD, stress goes away. Very, very powerful. So do it properly, look up the yellow pages or Google and go to a center and learn by a teacher.
People don't yellow pages anymore.
I know.
Chopra.
True. Yellow pages, one of those. I saw a cartoon. This boy is watching a movie with his father. And in the movie, this guy goes and he goes to this booth where there's a payphone. And he puts some coins and then he's dialing the number. And the boy says, Dad, what is that? He said, that's a phone. Phone? Boy, they must have had big pockets then.
One thing I'm curious about, you've been through all sorts of experiences, right? From India to here, to traveling the globe, to writing 12 books, to being a practicing physician, to being a dean at Harvard, continuing medical education. When you think about, so you see a lot of success, right? When I talk to you and I see your accomplishments, they're many. When you think about the moment where you were down, right, where you felt like this adversity was against you, what comes to mind?
So, Andrew, I'm very, very fortunate that I'm an optimist to a limit that sometimes my friends and family rebel and say, how can you be so happy all the time? How can you be so optimistic all the time? I think it's just part of my nature. I was lucky to be born with that particular bone of optimism. Winston Churchill once said, a pessimist sees difficulty in every opportunity. An optimist sees opportunity in every difficulty. As simple as that.
Wow.
So if you're optimistic, you're happy. I also have the most amazing friends. The other day I was sort of calculating and I have like 25 very close friends in 6 different countries. Canada, Mexico, India, Dominican Republic, Colombia, America, of course. And I keep in touch with them, or they keep in touch with me. Some of them I talk to twice a week. Some of them every 2 months. Hey, we haven't connected. Let's catch up. And every single one of them inspires me. They're living a life of purpose. They're doing good for the world. They're humble. And so I'm so lucky. I sometimes pinch myself. How did I get so lucky? There's a best-selling author by the name of James Rohn. He said, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. I do have 5 friends like that, 6 friends that we meet. Yusuf is one of them. And
we love you, Yusuf.
What a great guy. And, nurture those friendships. It's one of the best ways to be happy.
You make me think about my friend group and how we all share in common when we are greeted with a challenge, right? When we're in the middle of the mountains and our GPS goes out, or we're out in the water and the boat dies, or, one of us gets sick, we actually get like excited, right? Because you just see everybody's tone and energy just shifts up a level, because we're like, oh, this means that we have to use our brains. We have to use our collective energy to get through this challenge. And on the other side of that, we're going to share a really fun story that we're going to talk about for a long time. Yeah. So the unpredictable is really a special thing.
It's great, and I have these friends and I trust them so much that if I prepare a new talk or I'm going to give a TEDx talk, first time I gave it on dharma, happiness, and living with purpose, I invited 8 of my friends to my home. And my wife served them tea and coffee and whatever. And then I gave each one of them a notepad and a pen. And I said, now I'm going to pretend I'm standing on that red circle and I'm speaking for 18 minutes. Please don't interrupt me because I'm also timing it. But take notes and tell me what can be done better. And they all did that. And they said, you've got too many slides, 8 slides, 3, 4. And one of them said, you start by talking about dharma, and Sanskrit word, and means this. Then you tell the story of your blindness, how you found your dharma. Switch it around. Start with the story, which is great advice because, as Steve Jobs once said, the most powerful people in the world are storytellers. So we can learn. I've been honored recently, been invited to give the commencement at a medical school graduating class in May of this coming year. And I've already been thinking about it. But one of the things I'm probably going to do is invite 6 or 8 friends and say, here's my commencement address, critique it. Tell me how to make it better.
Yeah.
Quotes are very powerful. Storytelling is very powerful. And if we're learning and, we're happy.
What's the biggest crowd you've spoken in front of?
I think the biggest crowd is in Anaheim. Every year there's a conference, Current Clinical Issues in Primary Care Medicine. And I was the course director from Harvard Med School and then course director from UCLA. And every morning we have keynotes, and I've given keynotes 20 years in a row. And that's about 7,000 clinicians.
Do you get nervous?
No. I get a high.
Did you used to get nervous?
Before I meditated, learned meditation.
Wow.
Now
all right. Got to meditate, everyone.
There's also an interesting trick, which I forget half the time, but if I remember, it's worth doing. Amy Cuddy, psychologist at Harvard some years ago, gave a TED talk. Our body language not only shapes the way people perceive us, but the way we perceive ourselves. So if somebody wins a gold medal or a 10-year-old kicks a soccer goal, they all go like this, right? The triumphant gesture. What she says is that do it before the event. Go to the men's room, ladies' room, stand in front of the mirror, smile and say, yes, for 2 minutes, which is a long time. But 10 minutes later, in the saliva, in both men and women, there's a surge in testosterone. And you're feeling more energized. And there's a lowering of plasma cortisol, the stress hormone. So I've taught this to a lot of friends, including my grandkids. My granddaughter Anya has performed at Carnegie Hall 6-7 times, piano. I said, Anya, before you go, just go to the men's room and women's room and do this. Nana,
is it like this?
Yeah.
That's
for
it?
2 minutes and smile. Triumphant gesture.
So the power pose.
Yeah, power pose. 10 years ago, 70 million people had watched this TED Talk by Amy Cuddy. So I'm in Anaheim giving a keynote, 7,000 people. And the keynote I'm giving is on microbiome, man and medicine. We have 100 trillion bacteria in our gut. It's been called the second human genome, a newly discovered organ, the inner bacterial rainforest. 100 trillion bacteria, in aggregate weighing 3 pounds. It has implications in obesity, arthritis, liver disease, Parkinsonism, Alzheimer's, response to chemotherapy, side effects of chemotherapy. Hot topic. And I have to update this talk every 2 or 3 weeks. There's something new. So I decide, you know what? I'm going to do this pose. So I wear my suit in the morning and I forget to do it in the hotel room. Walk to the convention center. Marty Kwan, professor of family medicine, UCLA, my course co-director, is going to introduce me. People start filing in. It's like 7:45 in the morning, first talk. And a lot of them know me from 25 years, so they're waving at me. I said, you know what? Let them think I'm crazy. I went, yes. I got up. I gave the talk.
To 7,000 people?
7,000 people. When I give my talk on leadership or happiness because of the different topic, almost always get a standing ovation. This one, I'm talking about stool, microbiome, fecal microbiota transplant, treatment. They got up and gave me a standing ovation. I said, Marty, what's wrong with them? I talked about stool. He said, Sanjiv, I've witnessed you speaking for 25 years. Every time it's amazing. There was something very special today. And this is before my back was killing me, before I had a double laminectomy. but just this pose. So it's very powerful. And if I remember, I do it.
That's a great tip. I'm curious what you want to be known for. When you're on your deathbed,
Yeah.
what do you want people to say about you?
He was a good soul. He was a kind soul. He inspired a lot of people.
How many people have you inspired to write books? I'm sorry to interrupt you there.
Yeah. When I go as a visiting prof, I meet faculty. So I was at University of Washington, Seattle, as the inaugural Bob and Janita Carithas professor, visiting prof. And I met 8 hepatologists. That's my field. So you meet half an hour, give talks, each go walk rounds, lunch, dinner. It's like boot camp, but it's very busy. So I asked each of the 8 hepatologists, have you written a book? No. Have you given a TED talk or a TEDx talk? No. Are you passionate about something? Yes. You have a book in you. I come back, 10 months later, 2 of them have written a book, just planting the seed. Same thing with Yusuf, our mutual friend. He gave a brilliant talk on artificial intelligence at my course, Update in Internal Medicine. It'll be 2 years this December. And he comes to the broadcast studio. I introduce him. Then I sit outside having coffee, watching his slides. Then I moderate the Q&A, people from 30 countries. And he comes out, he says, how is it? I said, Yusuf, sit down. So he got nervous. I said, Yusuf, you go to Hawaii every 2 weeks. It's a very long flight. And you told me you watch Netflix. No more. You're going to write a book. You've done 80% of the work writing the book on AI. I'm giving you 30 days to write the book. And if you don't have time to do that, I'm giving you 25 days. So he arrives in Hawaii. He sends me a text. Brother, I hate you. I love you. I've written 25% of the book. 4 months later, the book is done.
Wow.
And look at the timing. Smart medicine. Before chat.
That's the name of the book.
Yeah.
Yep, Smarter
Before
Medicine.
Chat GPT.
Mm-hmm.
And then he gets invited to the Medtronics Engineer Center in Milan. And he's now started an AI fund to the tune of $200 million. He's going to have a $200 million AI fund. Yus is a great guy, but just planting the seed.
Yeah. You're an amazing friend and leader.
Oh, I love him. And he's so kind and he's so generous and he's so brilliant.
Mm-hmm. Is there any other advice that we haven't covered that you want
I
people to hear?
think make your goals in life, write down your goals, and they have to be, professional, physical, family, social, financial, spiritual. All categories. You have to have a modicum of success in each of those categories. And at different stages of our life, different goals will be prioritized. You're a young man, professional goals maybe. Later on, maybe spiritual goals. But next to the goal, you have to have an action plan. A vision without a goal is a hallucination. That's what Will Rogers once said. And now, should your goals be bold? Should they be audacious? Or should they be realistic? And what I say is they have to be on the bold side. Don't sell yourself short. Michelangelo once said, the greater tragedy for most of us is not that we aim too high and fall low. We aim too low and reach the mark. Henry Ford said, whether you believe you can do a thing or believe you cannot, you're right. So your goals should be bold and audacious. I picked up golf 30 years ago, and all my friends who were all tennis players switched to golf. I said, what's your goal? They said, to break 100. The average golfer doesn't break 100. Sanjiv, what's your goal? I said, single digit handicap. I'll do it. And I took lessons, short game. I got down to a 7 handicap, had 3 holes in 1. I think it's...
You've had 3 holes in 1?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Being focused, being dedicated, being disciplined. So I tell everyone, make your goals, have an action plan, have a cadre of good friends, nurture your friendships, meditate. And then there's a very powerful affirmation. A lot of people say affirmations in the morning. They wake up and they say, today will be a great day. I'll have a wonderful interview. I'll do this. I'll going out for lunch with my best friend, da-da-da-da. It has value. But what has more value is if you say the affirmation at night as your head hits the pillow. And there's neuroscience to back this. There's a guy by the name of Strickgold at Harvard Medical School, at the hospital I work at, one of the hospitals, Beth Israel Deaconess, in sleep medicine. He just got promoted to full professor. About 3 years ago, I'm driving to work 6:30 in the morning, and he's on NPR. And he's like, what? Amazing. And he's talking about his research. I pull over. I want to listen to this guy. Then I invite him to give a talk to 5,000 people. He said, I'm honored, Dr. Chopra. What should we call it? I said, let's call it Sleep on It! ! He gave the most brilliant talk. But the affirmation that my friend Adrian and I teach, and we borrowed it from some book and modified it, is I expand in abundance, success, happiness, and love. I expand in abundance, success, happiness, and love every day and inspire others to do the same.
Mm.
The inspire others to do the same is not out of arrogance. It's like it's my duty. Right? Voltaire, the French philosopher, once said, every man is guilty of all the good he did not do.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a gift or a talent, you must share it.
Mm-hmm.
When I give my talks all over the country, around the world, I see people taking notes. And I said, you don't have to take notes. Whoever organized this event has access to all my PowerPoint presentation. Just write to that person. They'll forward my presentation to you. You can use it. You don't have to give me attribution. You can modify it. I call it copy left. Right? Knowledge is in the domain of the seeker.
Mm-hmm. And they get
So
to be present.
these things, some of these things are very powerful. Nurture your friendships, learn to meditate, say the affirmation, stick to your core values, make your goals, put an action plan. I call it the STAR principle for goals. Goal has to be specific. You can't say, I want to lose weight. You have to say, how many pounds you want to lose. That's the specific S. T, time bound. Deadlines are very powerful motivators. Aim high.
Mm.
Right? Just what Michelangelo and people like that said. And R has to resonate for you. If you're doing it to impress your mother, your fiancé, your wife, your husband, won't work in the long run. It has to be something you're passionate, resonate for you.
Mm-hmm.
Specific, time-bound, aim high, resonate.
That's great. The affirmation thing, saying it at night is interesting.
Yeah.
I usually say mine in the morning. I say to love myself unconditionally.
Yeah.
I find that to be really hard, right? I'm so loving of others,
Yeah.
but can be very critical of myself.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us could probably relate to that,
Yeah.
right? And so I'm really trying to focus on that love to myself, and then to love others the same unconditionally, and to be present in all that we do.
Yeah.
So I find that when we're present, we're much more powerful.
But try saying it at night.
Yeah.
You can still say it in the morning, but say it at night. And it takes 10 seconds to say it as you're falling asleep. One of the other things I try to share a lot with people, I think I mentioned this to you earlier when we were in the car coming to the studio. 5 things. I should have traveled more. I should have spent more time with my friends. I should have been the bigger person and said, I'm sorry. I should have had the courage to pursue my dreams and aspirations. I should have said, I love you more often. 5 things. Who says these things? People in hospice, facing imminent death. This is a nurse who I think interviewed 500 or 1,000 people. Said, what are your greatest regrets in life?
Wow.
And nobody said, I should have worked harder. Nobody said, I should have lived in a bigger mansion. I should have driven a new Ferrari or Tesla every 6 months. I should have belonged to 3 country clubs. So these are the greatest regrets people have. And the point is, we need to be doing it now. None of us should have any of these regrets on our deathbed. Very powerful, but how simply profound.
Dr. Chopra, thank you. That's so wise, and I feel so lucky to be able to spread your message.
Oh, thank you so
because I think it certainly makes a difference.
Yeah.
It's made a difference in my life. And
I have a new friend now. His name is Andrew.
Thank you so much. That's it. Thank you so much for tuning in to Permission to Shine, the podcast dedicated to sharing the most humble, inspiring stories that I know you will love. Again, this is Andrew Nemani. I appreciate you tuning in. As always, please reach out. Please follow on Instagram, on YouTube, on LinkedIn, Spotify, Apple. Leave us your thoughts. Let us know who you want as a future guest or what's your takeaways from this conversation. We'll talk to you soon. Have a great, great week.